Welcome to Speed Data, quick conversations with cybersecurity leaders. I'm your host, Megan Garza, and today I have the honor of chatting with Justin Michael, CTO for Corbin Capital Partners. Thanks for joining me this morning, Justin.
Thanks for having me.
For the past 7 years, Justin has led the Information Technology Department for Corbin Capital, an asset management firm specializing in hedge fund investing with more than $8.2 billion in assets. Before that, Justin served as Director of Information Technology, Lead Network Engineer, and as a technology consultant for major investment groups. You have a very diverse and impressive background, Justin. I know you're a Wisconsin alumnus. Did you begin your career by studying technology in college?
Actually, I did. Yes, I was very fortunate that I had a teacher in high school who was interested in computers and started me very early on in getting involved with computers. And I had a mentor who took me under his wing. I think I was 15 at the time, and he taught me some of the basics of programming and computer repair. And so between the two of them, they helped me start my career so that when I went to the university, I was ready to start computer science right from the get-go.
That's fantastic that you kind of knew from an early age what you wanted to do.
Yeah, it was really great for those two guys to really invest in me. Honestly, I'm not sure that I would have invested in me. I'm not really investable at that time, but both of those guys made an effort, and I really appreciate what they did for me. So, Mr. Patton and Mr. Burkhart, both of them made investments that were important to me and helped me on my career.
Nice. Well, they must have seen in you something that you didn't.
I hope so. That's probably it.
Now, I'm sure that there have been some bumps along the road. As I mentioned, you've been in your current role now for 7 years. What do you think is the hardest thing about being a CTO?
Well, the hardest thing about being a CTO is affecting change. I've always had the opportunity to work with very, very smart people, people who really excel at what they do on the business front, and to explain to them like cybersecurity problems or the issues that I'm facing, they generally really understand it pretty quickly. It takes time to change ingrained habits. It takes time for people sometimes to slow down. Very smart people tend to work very fast, and so sometimes they just need to slow down and take a breath and exercise their good judgment, and not rush into things. And so affecting change, I think, is the hardest thing about being a CTO.
And tell me a little bit about your day-to-day responsibilities.
I'd say my day starts by checking the overnight processes. We have jobs that run basically 24 by 5. Our automated systems are running almost constantly to ingest data, review the data, provide the data to other systems. And so in the morning, I typically get up and just check to see if anything unusual occurred overnight. And then my day is oftentimes just spent at looking at new data sources and how we're going to ingest them into the data warehouse, or looking at new ways that we can provide that data to our stakeholders. I do spend a fair amount of time on the cybersecurity front. The other thing I do every morning is I check to make sure that the log sources are still reporting. One of the first reports that I had the log system generate is generate a report on its own functionality and make sure the logs are being ingested properly. I have some automated Varonis reports that come to me every morning just to make sure that things are going smoothly. And so I spend, a couple minutes checking those automated messages to make sure, are all the system accounts that are being logged into the ones I expect to be logged into? Are there any new user accounts I didn't expect? Of course, throughout the day, I'll get alerts if something unusual occurs, but I do check the overnight logs for those kinds of things.
Appreciate the shout out there. Speaking of things that could happen overnight, what keeps you up at night in terms of what type of data breaches or exploits do you worry about the most?
I think what keeps me up at night the most is not knowing what I don't know. I'm sure there are things in the environment, the little nuances, the details, that there might be something that I don't know. And that's why we are always looking for tools that help us to understand our environment, understand the nuances. We do have a service provider who helps us with our environment. So if they make any changes, we want to know that those changes are being made. And so we're always looking for ways to understand our environment. I think when it comes to attack vectors and those kinds of things, we just always trying to be learning and understanding all that can be done. Of course, everyone right now is worried about what AI and advanced AI is able to do. and how attack vectors might change as malicious actors take advantage of the resources that are available through Bard and ChatGPT and the other AI tools. They're quite powerful, and I'm really impressed with what they can do. But that means that we just have to be even more on our guard about what might be available in our environment and what we can do to close those issues down.
And does your team fall under the CIO realm, or how do you and that team work together?
At Corbin, we have a small group. We're very flat. And so we do work with the CIO, the Chief Information Officer, to make sure that we're meeting the goals of the business unit and to try to make sure that we're accomplishing what we need to accomplish. One of the things that as I was reflecting on this issue, one of the things I realized is how important it was to treat each other as team members and recognizing the strengths that you bring to the table and what the strengths that they bring to the table and working together on a common goal and having that good communication with the rest of the team about what's about to happen, what goals are we trying to accomplish, and how we can work together to make that possible has been a big part of why our team works so well together.
And now you always kind of knew that you wanted to go into technology. But if you hadn't gone that route and wound up in a different field other than cybersecurity, what would you be doing right now?
While I was still in college, I started skydiving, and I spent probably 10 years skydiving quite a bit and traveling around the country skydiving in between my roles as in my career. There was a point in my life where I get up in the morning, go to work, get out of work, drive to the airport, jump out of airplanes until sunset, go home, have dinner, and start the next day the exact same way.
You know, the usual, what most people do.
So I love to be in the air, so I'd probably be flying skydivers or flying airplanes.
The first time you jumped out of a plane, what was going through your mind?
Our organization that I learned how to skydive at was very focused on safety. So we were really well trained on what to do in the event of an emergency, how to handle it, how to recognize it, and then what to do. And so we were very, very safe. And so a lot of people experience adrenaline and fear. And for me, I wanted to make sure that my instructor was happy with how I arched, how I opened my parachute, how I landed my parachute, how well I followed instructions. I was really performance oriented. But it reminds me a little bit about incident response plans. We were so well trained and we practiced in very specific manners. Okay, we're going to practice looking up at the parachute and identifying whether or not it's open or closed, or if there's a problem or the line is broken. All these things that we had to sort of think about when we looked up at the parachute to make sure it was flyable and landable. In the same way, like your incident response plan is very similar to that. You want to practice it a few times so that when the event occurs, you know exactly what you're looking for and exactly what your next steps are.
That's a great connection. I love that. So, to wrap us up here, can you share one thing that you wish future cybersecurity professionals knew?
I think I would want them to know that they don't need to do it alone and that they can really lean on tools and partners and other colleagues in the industry, that they're not in competition with those organizations, but we're all working together to help our users be safe and help our users be able to access data and in safe manners and to protect our data from malicious actors. Knowing that you don't have to be in competition with those people, but you can work as a team with those organizations, those partners, those tools, I think would be something all of us could benefit from.
Well, thank you for your time today, Justin. I know our audience always enjoys hearing from experienced leaders on how they work in our chosen field. And as a reminder, if our audience has any questions they'd like me to ask on a future Speed Data episode, please email me at mgarza@varonis.com. Thank you so much, Justin.
Thanks for having me. I really enjoyed it.